White House, of course, has named its new drug czar. They're not going to keep the same drug czar under the Obama administration. And this individual has been a hardliner when it comes to the war on drugs and criminalizing individuals who are addicted to drugs. It's Representative Tom Marino, and he has a pretty questionable voting record in Congress pertaining to the criminalization of drugs like marijuana. Now, Marino's congressional voting record is that of a hardliner on marijuana issues, and he recently said that he'd like to put nonviolent drug offenders in some sort of hospital/prison. Marino also voted multiple times against a bipartisan measure to prevent the Justice Department from going after state legal medical marijuana businesses. Now, I have more about his voting record in just a minute, but I do want to note that Jeff Sessions is also very much against treating drug addicts as individuals who need rehabilitation as opposed to criminalization. And so you couple those two together and we might be in for a world of trouble, especially when we're dealing with a heroin epidemic in the country right now.
Yeah,
I have a question.
Go for it.
Why would we put a drug user in a hospital?
So the idea being under the Obama administration that we are trying not to criminalize it as much because it's more beneficial, according to certain schools of thought, to treat drug addiction and abuse as a medical thing.
But drug users aren't the same as drug abusers.
Right, so this
is a massive waste of time and money and medical expertise.
Yes. It is just such a weird misunderstanding of everything that if you're the czar, you should kind of research.
You made such a good point, Kim, because I think even liberals would hear your question and it would raise red flags because no, but people need help, they need rehabilitation, and some people do. Those who are addicted, those who abuse the drugs do need rehabilitation, but there are some individuals who might casually or recreationally use drugs like marijuana, for instance. I know someone that I've studied very extensively on this issue. She likes to partake in the occasional doobie after work, and she's not necessarily an individual who needs to be in a hospital for rehabilitation because she smokes marijuana or consumes marijuana or enjoys marijuana. So I like that you made that clarification, it's important. Now, I'm gonna give you some more information about Mr. Marino. He voted against a measure to allow Veterans Affairs doctors to recommend medical marijuana to their patients, as well as against a separate measure to loosen federal restrictions on hemp, a non-psychoactive variant of the cannabis plant with potential industrial implications. He also voted against a measure that would loosen some restrictions on CBD oil, again, a non-psychoactive derivative of the cannabis plant that holds promise for treating severe forms of childhood epilepsy. So why is he, especially when you consider the fact that even conservatives, Republicans, are now opening their minds up to the notion of, hey, let's not criminalize these people, let's rehabilitate them. Hey, maybe marijuana has medicinal potential, let's focus on that. No, why? Why is he so in favor of criminalizing people or doing away with any type of policy that would legalize marijuana for medicinal use? Well, if you look at his donors, pharmaceutical companies. There's pharmaceutical companies everywhere, right? So let's look at National Community Pharmacists Association, a so-called nonprofit. In 2016, they gave his campaign $10,000. 2014, $7,000. Sanofi Pharmaceutical Company, 2016, $10,000. 2014, $10,000. Drug wholesale company, AmerisourceBergen. 2016, $7,500, 2014, $5,500. His top donors are pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, and he's on the record as saying, the only way I would agree to consider legalizing marijuana is if we had a really in-depth medical scientific study, those exist, go research them. And then this is where it really gets annoying, especially in light of what you just said. If it does help people one way or another, then produce it in pill form. I think it's a states' rights issue, but produce it in pill form. That's what's so frustrating to people who like, so you're just against, I get it. He's decided that if you can make a gummy out of it, it's not a real bit of medicine, but this is proof that he's trying to funnel it towards the pharmaceutical industry so that it's something that grows like a weed.
Well, and we also know that the DEA just recently gave like the green light to a synthetic form of marijuana that has all of these terrible side effects because it's not the natural form of marijuana, it's a synthetic chemical, right? They gave that the green light because it's produced by pharmaceutical companies and you can't grow it in your backyard. But marijuana continues to be a Schedule I drug.
And what they need to understand is there is so much drug abuse around drugs that come in pill form. He has these archaic understandings of what is right and what is wrong, and has stuck his head in the sand because his companies profit when folks create a racket out of pharmaceutical products.
And by the way, let me just clarify, when I said FDA, not the DEA. DEA is not in charge of policies. Yeah, so just making sure you guys know that.
I love the hospital/prison.
Right, because
that's such a strange thing to come up with. And it just makes no sense why you would stick a hospital in there of all things, except maybe someone who would profit off of a hospital operating even if it didn't need to run.
Well, that's it. It's like, oh, let me combine the two industries that make so much money if you privatize them, the hospital industry, the medical, the healthcare industry, and the prison industry.
Yeah.
And no one wants to go to a hospital/prison that's like, oh, do you want to check into a hotel/dungeon? Like,
some people might.
It's crazy. And look, the Obama administration was not perfect when it came to drug policy, but they at least moved the country toward decriminalizing people who use drugs, and they stopped using the phrase war on drugs, which is so clownish, right? And so unfortunately, I feel like this current administration is going to roll back any progress we've made, and it's scary. It really is, especially when you consider the number of people who could stand to benefit from the medicinal potential of marijuana, and the number of people who have had their lives literally destroyed over the criminalization of drugs like marijuana.
Right, I mean, if you get into the system at an early age, and frequently it's through something like possession, because it's an easy thing to roll up on some kids and see, like, empty your pockets. Let me take these kids who are on the corner and put them into the system, into juvie. The recidivism rate is so insane. And for those kids to be in there early for something that, I mean, why wouldn't we change the law, especially if there's not as much of a provable negative connotation to marijuana possession? If we don't get them in the system from the beginning, maybe they stand a chance.
Young Turks membership creates independent media.
Believe me.
No ads.
Believe me.
All the shows.
Believe me.
On demand.
Believe me.
Support independent media.
Believe me.
It's awesome, tremendous, you'll love it.
Believe me.
And by the end, you'll be thinking,
you know, I'm like a smart person.
tytnetwork.com/join.